Here he goes again. That's huge. That's on the roof.
Welcome to Dean at Stumps, the cricket encyclopedia.
The Sri Lankans are stunned. The Zimbabweans are jubilant. Look what that means to them. The first ever series victory against Sri Lanka.
Hello and welcome to the Dean at Stumps podcast with me, Dean Duplessis. Well, Zimbabwe will be very happy and relieved because they've recorded a 4-0 series win, which means that they've recorded a clean sweep over the UAE when they won the fourth and final one-day international by 3 wickets, courtesy to Duckworth Lewis at Harare Sports Club. The UAE won the toss and somewhat surprisingly elected to bat and were bowled out for 175 in 47.1 overs. There were good contributions from Surya, who made 46, and Rizwan 47, but after that there wasn't too much to speak of. 2 wickets apiece for Kyle Jarvis, Chris Mpofu and Sean Williams. And Zimbabwe were nicely placed at 37 for no wicket after 6.4 overs before a steady drizzle drove the players from the field. Well, a bit of time was lost, as one could understand and imagine, and Zimbabwe now had to chase 128 runs in 30 overs. Zimbabwe were well placed at 44 for no wicket and then slumped to 79 for 5 before Timson Maruma, who lived a rather charmed life but at the same time played a couple of beautiful strokes, struck a powerful 35 off just 22 balls with 3 4s and 2 6s. He was dropped twice on the way in doing so, but by the time he got out, Zimbabwe only needed a handful of runs to win, and even though Ryan Bull was run out for 1, Kyle Jarvis with an unbeaten 5 and Sikandar Raza with 9 not out steered Zimbabwe to that 3-wicket win. Well, afterwards, Captain PJ Moore was naturally delighted with the way proceedings went.
Yeah, obviously, 4-0 win, that was our goal at the start of the series. It's something that we thought was a realistic challenge and something that we thought that if we come out and play the cricket that we know we're capable of playing, we can achieve. And full credit to the team. I think everybody in their own way put their hand up a little bit and everyone contributed. It wasn't like there was particular guys who just stood out throughout the whole series. I think every game somebody put their hand up, and that's all you can really ask for as a captain.
I was about to say, it really seemed like a real and proper team effort. We saw some excellent bowling by Kyle Jarvis. Tendai Chatara, Regis Chakaba, man of the series, was excellent with the bat and with the gloves. You really drove the nail into the coffin when it mattered. And then, of course, today when Craig Irvin and yourself got out and Zimbabwe seemed in a bit of strife, very good performance by Timson Maruma to get you over the line.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Dean. I think everybody, like I said, put their hand up at some point throughout the series. And I think, for me, the easiest job is when your bowlers come out and they're so hungry to bowl and they want the ball and they want to get wickets. And I think that was really encouraging for me because, it was hard to get the ball out of the guys' hands sometime throughout the series. And I think, if we can keep making those strides forward as a team, we're only going to get better. So that was fantastic.
And I guess the only disappointment now, again, a bit of a gap before there's cricket again, which must be seriously frustrating.
Yeah, that's our biggest frustration. I mean, whenever we do get on a roll or whenever we're on an upward spiral, we sort of, have these long breaks, which is very frustrating as a team. But you know what, we can't control those things. So we had a good chat in the change room now after the series, and we said, listen guys, some guys are going off to the UK, some guys are going to be around here. Let's not rest on our laurels. Let's keep working hard. Let's keep going from strength to strength, because before you know it, that series against Holland and Ireland is going to be upon us. So let's just make sure that we're ready to hit the ground running when that time comes.
And if somebody were to offer you the captaincy full time, would you be ready to jump at it?
Not too. It's hard to say. I mean, I absolutely loved the chance to captain the country throughout the series. I really enjoyed it. I still know, obviously, Hamilton's got a few years left, and he also does a good job when he leads the side. So, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But obviously, with him coming back into the side, he is our captain. He's been in the change room throughout the series as well. So, yeah, we'll just see what happens.
That is PJ Moore talking after Zimbabwe's 4-0 win over the UAE. So some good performances there. Kyle Jarvis with 10 wickets and incredibly economical, especially up front with the new ball. But some people feel a bit mystified that he wasn't named man of the match. That honour was bestowed upon Regis Chakaba, who took a couple of catches. In fact, if you remember, in the first one-day international, he took 5 catches and continued to keep wicket relatively nicely. His stumpings were very good, and he was also consistent at the top of the order. So it was Regis Chakaba who got man of the match. But as I said, many people feel that should have gone to Kyle Jarvis. Craig Irvin, also very good with 2 50s in the 4 games that he played, so he'll be happy with his excellent form as well. Right, so on to, as we continue to count down for the World Cup, that'll be starting at the end of May. I cannot wait for this to happen, and I'm pretty sure that you'll be pretty excited about this as well. I was able to catch up with former Zimbabwe captain and, of course, former coach Dave Houghton, who was lucky enough to be at 2 of the 4 World Cups which have been played in England. So just a reminder that all the World Cups that have been played in England, 1975, 1979, 1983 and 1989. And Dave Houghton was a part of 2 of them, 1983 as a player and 1999, of course, as a coach of a very successful team. Well, Houghton, first of all, told me how he enjoyed the fact that there will be another World Cup being played in England, and pretty much how he's looking forward to it. We do apologize as well, or I do apologize for the slightly muffled sound, and also commiserations to Davey Houghton, who's struggling with a beast of a cold.
It's a great place to play cricket. Obviously, it's the home of cricket, where the place originated. And in World Cup years in particular, there's a lot of support and a lot of people interested in the outcome of it. And of course, they've got another one coming up this year, and they're the favourites. So it's big news here in England.
And tell us about some of the memories, because, I mean, obviously, as a player, 1983, very special, Zimbabwe's inaugural World Cup, where they obviously beat Australia and gave India a tough time. And then 1999, the very special World Cup where Zimbabwe were able to progress to the Super Sixes. So in terms of memories, there must be a lot that you can share.
Yeah, well, the first one, 1983, obviously, for all of us coming out here, it was the first time we played against people we'd only ever seen on TV, to be honest. They were all our sort of childhood heroes growing up. You'd seen them via videotapes and things like this, and then suddenly you're standing toe-to-toe, in a game of cricket with them. And everyone remembers the game we won against Australia, the first game we played in the World Cup at Trent Bridge, but actually about 3 or 4 days before that we played Pakistan at Uxbridge in a warm-up game, and both sides fielded their best team, and we beat them convincingly. So having had that victory, then winning the first one, there was almost a thought of, because we had won a lot of games as a country, even though they were against people's A side, we had quite a winning mentality within the team. There was almost a thought of, we might just go away here. And that was quite quickly knocked back by the next 2 games against the West Indies at Worcester and India at Leicester, where we got some good hidings. But, we still performed really well because we had to play everybody twice. The second game against India is the famous one of Kapil Dev scoring 175, where, we had them 7 down for about 70, having been 17 for 5, 40 for 6, and he just played an unbelievable innings. I don't think we did much wrong. He didn't miss-hit the ball, and he got 175. But we still felt afterwards we should have won the game. We finished up 20 short. And then we went to the next game against Australia and finished another agonisingly 15 or so short from there. So we could quite comfortably have won 3 games at that World Cup, and that may have seen us through to the semi-finals.
The 1999 World Cup obviously would probably have been a bit more special for you still being a part of the Zimbabwe team, but this time as a coach. The 2 standout games there, I would imagine, would have been that incredible win over India, where Zimbabwe somehow managed to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat thanks to Henry Alonga, and then that incredible game of cricket against South Africa, which I know South Africa have always been a team that you always wanted to do well against when either you were a player or indeed as coach.
Played Kenya, which we were expected to win, and we won reasonably comfortably. We then played Sri Lanka, who we thought poorly and were thumped, and actually almost had a sort of doom and gloom attitude about us because we'd lost the one game we thought we could win in our section against a test-playing nation. We got to the 3rd game, and it was against India, and really we outplayed them all day. But we got to the afternoon session, and there was a sort of late partnership within their batting order. I can't remember exactly who was batting, and they took the game away from us. In front of a very partisan Indian crowd. I mean, there was it was like you were playing in India. There were that many Indian fans. And literally in a moment of desperation, right at the end of the game, Alistair Campbell, who was captain, chucked the ball to him and said, well, you have a bowl. And I think he got 3 wickets in the over, and that was it. In the space of about 5 minutes, the game changed and we'd won. We went from that game with nice, a feeling of, well, at least we've beaten another Test nation. So almost that we'd done our job, bearing in mind the next 2 games we had was against England, the host country, and against South Africa. And we didn't think we had any chance of beating South Africa, so we better pitch up and play well against England. Well, we did exactly the opposite. We pitched up against England, and I think that was our worst game of the World Cup. We were completely outplayed. We just didn't have any... we didn't have a foot in that game at all from start to finish. They whopped us. And so literally when we went down to Chelmsford for our last game, I got the lads together the night before with the manager and said, listen, make sure all your bags are packed after the game. We want to get off to the airport quite early the following day. So, make sure things are ready now. We'll play tomorrow, then get your bags in the foyer at sort of before midnight so that we can get on the bus to get to the airport. That's how short of confidence we were that we could actually pull something off against South Africa. But little did we know, Neil Johnson certainly was thinking exactly the opposite, and he saw an opportunity to play against a lot of the players he'd played with growing up, because he'd spent quite a bit of his formative years in South Africa, and he had a day to remember with both bat and ball, and the absolutely amazing happened, and we turned them over in the end pretty easily. And as the game unfolded and we were winning, we suddenly realised the way that the World Cup was structured, that not only were we going to go through, but we were going to go through top of our section, because the other 2 sides coming through with us, we had beaten, so we carried the points from those games. So, the most amazing thing happened. We beat South Africa and we went through top of our section. And England, thinking that they were home and dry, lost their final game and got knocked out.
Do you think the mindset of the players started to change after that incredible win over South Africa? Did they have a bit more self-belief going into the Super Sixes? Because certainly, although they lost to Australia, you could certainly see the way that they went about their business. Neil Johnson, obviously, again, was very special with the bat. But it's certainly, looking in from an outsider back in Zimbabwe, it looked as if the confidence levels and self-belief abilities had taken a massive leap.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, we had 3 games to play. The one against New Zealand got rained off, and I think we shared a point each. But we, again, just on the sort of world rankings at the time, fancied our chances mostly against them. Now, that game got rained off, so we were still top of the log and we were looking good. And the next game was at Lords against Australia, and as you say, we had a real good game with them, a good tussle. Once again, Neil Johnson, the outstanding player. And we lost them in a high-scoring game, but we certainly played our part in a very entertaining game of cricket. So the only real disappointment for me of the lot was the last game at the Oval against Pakistan, because we could afford to lose it and actually just achieve a run rate, and we could go through to the semi-finals. And sadly, we did lose it, and we didn't achieve a run rate. So that was a disappointment for me, because, as I say, there was no pressure on us to even win the game. We just really needed to get a decent rate in the game.
You and Alistair Campbell, who was a captain at the time, seemed to have a very good relationship, which is so important for a coach and a captain to have. Did you have that same relationship as well when Andy Flower took over briefly as captain, when Alistair Campbell relinquished the captaincy towards the end of the year of 1999? What were the differences coaching, or should I say, having a captain like Alistair Campbell and then having a captain such as Andy Flower while you were coach?
Look, I had pretty good relationships with both of them, and they're both different captains in their way. Andy, much more methodical, a bit like me as a captain, to be quite honest, didn't really take a lot of risks and pretty much did things by the book and so on, expected everything from the players. Alistair was a little bit more out there and would take a gamble from time to time and perhaps do the unpredictable. And so both were successful in their own ways, but at the same time they were different captains. It was quite difficult captaining a Zimbabwe side. I took it for a while, then Andy after me, then Alistair, then back to Andy. It's difficult for your own game, not so much that it affects the way you bat and that, but you get a lot of beatings. You don't win as many games as you'd like to win, and obviously cricket's a lot easier when you're in a winning change room all the time. So you do suffer, and especially as a captain, you tend to take it on the chin a little bit more than some of the players. And, it's quite understandable after a couple of years how each of them wanted a break from it.
That makes a lot of sense, Davey. And just briefly, returning to the World Cup, Zimbabwe obviously not part of the World Cup. That will be a first since 1983. Although you're no longer part of the Zimbabwean system, it must be very disappointing and heartbreaking for you as a Zimbabwean.
I am disappointed, but not so much for me. I'm sorry for the lads, because also the knockout tournament that they played in, I thought they played unbelievably well, and they've lost a game on the final afternoon that they should have won. I mean, they've just proved that they're playing them now in a little series at home, which they're winning comfortably. If you played UAE 10 times outside versus their side, you'd win 9.9 times, and unfortunately that 0.01 was the day that cost us a place in the World Cup. So it's bitterly disappointing for the players and the fans in Zimbabwe. But let's hope that it's a little blip in their cricket history, and they'll be back in the World Cup next time.
And then finally, Dave, who do you think will do well in this World Cup? I mean, England and India are probably the favourites, but do you think we could see a few dark horses maybe coming through and causing some upsets?
Yeah, England being the favourites and at home, and all the pressure that is put on them by their home crowds and their media is not always a great thing. They are, I think, the best one-day side in the world. Whether that will lead to a win of the World Cup, we'll see. I am always worried at World Cups about Australia, and certainly their one-day form has racked up a notch or two in the last 6 months, and of course they've got some returning players joining their squad too. So they will always be it. And, the serial semi-finalists for the last, I don't know how many years, has been New Zealand. And right now, New Zealand have a great cricket team. So this is probably the most open World Cup that there's been ever.
Wow, what a fascinating individual that is. A cricketing brain like... I'm not too sure if Zimbabwe has ever had any cricketing brain like that. That is Dave Houghton, former captain and, of course, former coach of Zimbabwe. Well, as the squads continue to be released, it'll be great to hear from you what you think. Are you happy with the squads? We've seen India, Australia and Bangladesh release their squads. And you're more than welcome to comment as to how you feel the squads have gone. Who should have been there, who should not have been there, or perhaps you may just be very happy. Thank you very much indeed for listening to Dean at Stumps podcast, and we'll be back again next week when we catch up with Neil Johnson, who talks about his 1999 memories. Until then, it's goodbye.